He started a war just to save one life. One hero chose mercy, the other chose blood. And episode 4 is about to tear everything apart. Fallout Season 2, in just one word, is perfect. And episode 3? Episode 3 is easily the episode that made me the happiest so far. From start to finish, it delivered everything I was hoping for. The ghoul saving Lucy, Maximus saving the children, and most importantly, the clear warning that the war is finally about to break out. Just like Maximus himself said, things are no longer calm. Everything is about to explode. So without wasting any time, let's break down the most important details from episode 3, and then talk about what episode 4 is setting up. The ghoul saves Lucy. By far, the best moment of the entire episode was the ghoul saving Lucy. What makes this hit even harder is what happened just one episode earlier. Lucy left the ghoul behind in episode 2, infected and helpless, choosing to save someone else instead of him. And yet, in episode 3, we see the impossible happen. The ghoul somehow gets back on his feet and immediately sets out to find Lucy. And the reason why becomes painfully clear. He doesn't see Lucy as just another person in the wasteland. He sees her as his daughter. That quiet moment where he tells his dog that Lucy is the only person he can talk to after all these years genuinely hit me.
It showed that underneath everything, the violence, the decay, the monster he's become, there is still a man who feels deeply alone. Meanwhile, Lucy's situation turns horrific. She falls into the hands of the Kaiser Legionaries, a group that believes they are the modern version of ancient Romans. And in one of the most brutal moments of the episode, the woman Lucy saved, the same woman she left the ghoul behind, is killed instantly without mercy. And then things get even worse. Lucy is crucified and left to die. At that point, it truly felt hopeless, but that's when the ghoul makes his move. He doesn't just save Lucy, he starts a war. By manipulating events, he turns the Kaiser Legionaries and the New California Republic against each other, igniting full-scale conflict just to rescue one person. And that decision says everything. Starting a war to save a single life is not something a ghoul should care about. That's something a human does. That's why I truly believe Cooper Howard is still alive inside him. And going forward, I think we're going to see him make more and more choices that prove he hasn't lost his humanity. After all, Maximus starts a war. No, let's talk about Maximus, because his storyline was just as intense. In my previous video, I said Maximus could potentially become a villain, especially after we saw him suggest killing Xander at the beginning of the episode to spark a rebellion, and honestly, seeing that prediction almost come true genuinely scared me. Thankfully, Maximus is immediately shut down by his leaders and forced to abandon that plan. What surprised me next was how close Maximus and Xander actually became. They worked together, side by side, trying to find a solution that could save their soldiers and prevent a civil war. And I won't even get into how entertaining it was watching them dismantle that robot together. But everything changes when Xander finally reveals the darkness inside him. When he sees the children who have turned into ghouls, his reaction is pure horror and pure cruelty. He wants them dead, and in that moment, waiting to see what Maximus would do. I could barely sit still. This was the turning point, thankfully. Maximus does not cross the line, even with power, even with respect. He proves he will not surrender to the dark side. He kills Xander before he can spread terror any further. And with that single decision, Maximus lights the fuse of a massive civil war, one that will soon spread across nations. What episode 4 will bring? No, let's talk about episode 4. And let me be honest, I think episode 4 is going to be the most exciting episode yet. The armies and the Brotherhood will quickly realize who is responsible for Xander's death. After all, Maximus was the only one who openly suggested killing him. Once the truth becomes clear, Maximus will understand that everyone is coming for him. And that's when his life on the run truly begins. I believe Maximus will start searching for Lucy while trying to survive in the wasteland, facing mutant creatures and constant danger along the way. At the same time, Lucy and the ghoul won't be safe either. There will definitely be members of the Kaiser Legionaries who figure out that the ghoul is the one who sparked the war between these factions. As Lucy and the ghoul run together, I'm sure we're going to get some incredibly important conversations. Lucy will almost certainly ask the ghoul why he saved her, and for the first time, I think we'll see him open up emotionally. He'll admit that he cares about her. He'll probably tell her not to leave his side again and to try not to die. From that moment on, I think the ghoul will actively try to protect Lucy from becoming what he has become. And I believe episode 4 will end on a devastating cliffhanger. Right when Maximus finally reunites with Lucy, he will be captured by the Brotherhood. Watching this happen, Lucy will immediately turn to the ghoul and beg him to help save Maximus. And for the rest of the season, we'll be watching two stories unfold at the same time, the rebellion tearing the world apart, and Lucy and the ghoul risking everything to rescue Maximus. Fallout Episode 4 does not slow things down at all, instead. It takes everything Episode 3 set in motion and pushes it closer to complete chaos. The trailer alone makes one thing very clear: the world is no longer divided into small personal stories. Everything is now connected. Every decision made in the last episode is coming back with consequences. And the pressure is finally closing in on Maximus, Lucy, and the ghoul at the same time. The biggest shock from the episode for trailer is simple but devastating: Maximus gets caught after everything he did in Episode 3. This was always going to happen. Killing Xander was not just a personal choice. It was a political act. It sent a message. And now, that message has been heard loud and clear. The Brotherhood is no longer confused. They are no longer debating what happened. They know someone betrayed their order from the inside. And all signs point to Maximus. What makes this moment hit harder is the journey Maximus has been on so far. He never wanted power for cruelty. He never wanted chaos for fun. Every step he took was based on survival and a belief that there had to be a better way. But in the wasteland, intentions do not matter as much as outcomes, and the outcome of Maximus's decision is war. Episode 4 begins with that weight fully on his shoulders. The trailer shows Maximus no longer moving with confidence. The armor that once made him feel protected now feels like a target. He knows the Brotherhood is hunting him, and for the first time, he looks genuinely alone. This is important because Maximus has always depended on structure, orders, rules, ranks. Now all of that is gone. He is no longer a soldier following commands. He is a fugitive running from the very system that raised him. At the same time, the episode for trailer makes it clear that the Brotherhood is not acting slowly. Their response is swift and aggressive. This is not an investigation. This is a purge. Whoever killed Xander is considered a threat to the entire order. And Maximus fits that role perfectly. The tension here is not just about whether he will survive, but about how far the Brotherhood is willing to go to make an example out of him. While Maximus is running, Lucy and the ghoul are also dealing with the fallout of Episode 3. The war started by the ghoul is spreading faster than expected. The Kaiser Legionaries and the New California Republic are no longer just fighting each other, they are hunting for answers. And when people start asking questions in the wasteland, innocent people rarely survive. The trailer hints that Lucy is beginning to realize the true cost of being saved. Yes, she is alive, but the price of that life was bloodshed on a massive scale. This is where her character starts to change. Lucy has always believed that doing the right thing would lead to good outcomes. Episode 4 begins challenging that belief. The wasteland does not reward kindness without consequences. The ghoul, on the other hand, looks more human than ever. His actions in Episode 3 already proved that Cooper Howard still exists somewhere inside him. In Episode 4, that internal conflict grows stronger. He saved Lucy by starting a war, but now he has to live with what that war is becoming. The trailer shows him watching the destruction unfold, and for the first time, he does not look proud. He looks tired. What makes Episode 4 especially intense is how all three storylines begin to move toward the same direction. Maximus is on the run, Lucy and the ghoul are being hunted, and the factions of the wasteland are no longer distant forces, they are closing in. Every path seems to lead toward confrontation. The title of the trailer, Maximus Got Caught, is not just about physical capture. It represents something deeper. Maximus is caught between who he was trained to be and who he chose to become. Lucy is caught between morality and survival. And the ghoul is caught between his past as Cooper Howard and his present as a weapon of the wasteland. Episode 4 continues by pushing Maximus into the most dangerous position he has ever been in. Being caught is not just about losing freedom. It is about losing control over his own story. The Brotherhood does not see Maximus as a confused soldier who made a hard choice. They see him as a traitor, and in their world, there is no forgiveness for betrayal. The trailer strongly suggests that Maximus is taken alive for one reason only: punishment must be public. The Brotherhood needs an example, and Maximus is becoming that example. What makes this situation even more intense is the silence around Maximus. In the trailer, he is no longer explaining himself. He is no longer arguing. He looks like someone who finally understands that words will not save him anymore. This is a huge shift from earlier episodes, where Maximus still believed he could justify his actions. Episode 4 strips that hope away. The Brotherhood does not care why he killed Xander. They only care that he did. At the same time, Episode 4 begins to expose cracks inside the Brotherhood itself. Xander's death did not just remove a soldier, it removed a symbol. Some members see him as a martyr. Others secretly believe he deserved what happened. This internal tension is important, because it hints that the Brotherhood is not as united as it appears. While they hunt Maximus, they are also fighting an invisible war within their own ranks. As Maximus is dragged deeper into this nightmare, Lucy's storyline takes a more emotional turn. The trailer shows her no longer reacting with shock, but with understanding. She is starting to realize how the wasteland truly works. Saving someone does not end the violence, it often multiplies it. The memory of being crucified still haunts her. But what scares her more now is knowing that her survival came at such a high cost. Lucy also begins to see the ghoul differently. Before, she saw him as a protector, someone dangerous but necessary. In episode 4, she starts to see the weight he carries. The war he started to save her is no longer theoretical, it is happening in real time. People are dying, settlements are burning, and Lucy knows that if the ghoul had not acted, none of this would be happening. This realization does not push her away from him, but it does change their dynamic. The ghoul himself becomes quieter in episode 4. He speaks less, but his expressions say everything. The trailer shows him watching soldiers move across the land, knowing he lit the fire that set them in motion. For someone who has lived for so long surrounded by death, this war feels different. This one is personal. He did not start it for power or revenge, he started it for love. And that makes the consequences harder to accept. Another important detail in episode 4 is how danger now follows Lucy everywhere. She is no longer a random traveler, she is a symbol to some. She represents hope, to others, she represents the reason blood is being spilled. This puts her in constant danger. And the trailer suggests that several factions are now actively looking for her, not to save her, but to use her. As these pressures build, episode 4 begins steering all paths toward one unavoidable moment: reunion. The trailer heavily hints that Lucy and Maximus come close to finding each other again. And just when it feels like there might be relief, Fallout does what it does best: it takes it away. Maximus's capture happens at the worst possible time, turning hope into despair within seconds. This moment is critical because it forces Lucy to make a choice: run and survive, or stay and fight. For the first time, Lucy is no longer reacting to the world, she is preparing to act, and the ghoul sees this change clearly. He understands what happens when good people try to fight the wasteland head-on. Episode 4 begins setting up a powerful conflict between protection and freedom. Episode 4 deepens the emotional weight by showing what capture truly means for Maximus. This is no longer about chains or confinement, it is about identity being stripped away. The Brotherhood begins treating him less like a person and more like a mistake that needs to be erased. The trailer suggests interrogation, judgment, and the slow process of breaking someone down to prove a point. Maximus is forced to confront the reality that everything he believed in has turned against him. What makes this even more painful is that Maximus is not shown as defiant, he is reflective. He understands that his choice stopped something terrible, but it also unleashed something worse. This internal struggle is what defines him in episode 4. He does not regret saving the children. He regrets believing the Brotherhood would ever understand why he did it. This realization marks the moment Maximus truly separates himself from the world that shaped him. At the same time, episode 4 expands on the growing chaos across the wasteland. The war between factions is no longer distant background noise, it is active, loud, and unavoidable. The trailer shows movements of troops, rising smoke, and settlements preparing for conflict. The ghoul's decision in episode 3 has now become a catalyst that others are using for their own agendas. Once violence starts, it rarely belongs to the person who ignited it. Lucy is placed directly in the middle of this expanding conflict. She is no longer guided by curiosity or optimism alone. Episode 4 shows her learning to think ahead, to question every step, and to accept that survival sometimes requires difficult choices. The innocence that defined her in earlier episodes is fading. But it is not disappearing, instead, it is being reshaped into something stronger, something more aware. Her bond with the ghoul becomes more complex here. Lucy starts asking questions that she avoided before, not just why he saved her, but what saving her truly cost him. The trailer hints at moments of quiet conversation between them, moments where the wasteland fades and only truth remains. The ghoul does not offer comfort, he offers honesty. And that honesty forces Lucy to see him not as a monster, but as someone carrying decades of regret. The ghoul's internal conflict reaches a new level in episode 4. For the first time, he is not reacting to threats, he is anticipating them. He knows the war will bring consequences that even he cannot control, and yet, He stays close to Lucy not because it is safe, but because it feels right. This choice further proves that Cooper Howard is still alive beneath the scars and radiation. One of the most powerful elements teased in episode 4 is the shift in perspective. Instead of asking whether characters will escape danger, the story begins asking what escaping will cost them. Maximus's capture is not just a setback, it is a message. Lucy's survival is not just luck, it is a burden. And the ghoul's protection is not just strength, it is sacrifice. The trailer also hints at growing unrest beyond the main characters. Smaller groups begin taking sides, rumors spread. Stories change depending on who is telling them. Maximus becomes a symbol to some and a warning to others. Lucy becomes a name whispered with fear and hope. And the ghoul becomes a shadow that many want eliminated. Before he changes the balance of power again. Episode 4 begins to feel heavier as the consequences finally settle in. This is the point where survival stops being about movement and starts being about endurance. Maximus, now fully in the Brotherhood's control, is no longer fighting with weapons, he is fighting with restraint. Every look, every pause, every silent moment shows someone who understands that one wrong reaction could seal his fate. The trailer suggests that the Brotherhood is not rushing his punishment. They want him to sit with what he's done, they want fear to do the work for them. What makes this phase especially brutal is how isolated Maximus becomes. There is no one speaking for him, no one defending his choice. Even those who secretly agree with what he did remain silent, afraid of becoming targets themselves. Episode 4 shows how power really works in the wasteland, not through strength alone, but through fear and obedience. Maximus is learning this lesson the hard way. While Maximus is trapped, Lucy's storyline becomes more active. She is no longer just reacting to danger, she is making decisions. The trailer strongly hints that she wants to go back for Maximus, even knowing how dangerous that choice is. This is a major shift in her character. Earlier, Lucy would have hesitated, weighed the risks, and hoped for a peaceful solution. Episode 4 shows her understanding that peace is no longer an option. The ghoul sees this change immediately. He understands where this path leads because he has walked it before. His concern is not just about Lucy getting hurt, it is about Lucy losing herself. The wasteland does not take lives quickly. It erodes people slowly. Episode 4 hints at quiet tension between them, not disagreement, but fear. Fear of what Lucy might become if she keeps fighting the way the world demands. Another important element in episode 4 is how information spreads. News of Xander's death, the war, and Maximus's capture moves fast, but never cleanly. Every faction twists the story to fit their needs. Some say Maximus is a traitor, others say he is a hero. Some claim Lucy is the reason the war started, others see her as proof that humanity still exists. These conflicting narratives turn people into symbols. And symbols are far more dangerous than individuals. The ghoul becomes increasingly aware that his name is being whispered again, not just as a survivor but as a threat. Episode 4 suggests that bounty hunters and rival groups are beginning to track his movements. He is no longer invisible. By saving Lucy and starting a war, he has pulled himself back into the center of the wasteland's power struggles, and once you are seen, you can never truly disappear again. Lucy begins to feel the weight of this attention. She notices the looks, the distance, the sudden hostility from strangers. The world is reacting to her presence, and she does not fully understand how to handle that yet. Episode 4 shows her learning quickly, but learning painfully. Trust becomes rare, safety becomes temporary, and every decision feels like it could be the wrong one. As the episode progresses, the tension between running and resisting grows stronger. The ghoul knows that constant movement is survival. Lucy believes that standing still and fighting back might save someone she cares about. This difference in perspective creates emotional strain. Not conflict, but urgency. Time is running out, and both of them know it. Episode 4 also reinforces one of Fallout's strongest themes: good intentions do not protect you from consequences. Maximus intended to stop cruelty. Lucy intended to save lives. The ghoul intended to protect someone he loved, and yet the world they live in responds with violence, judgment, and war. This contrast is what makes the story feel grounded and brutal at the same time. Episode 4 reaches a point where escape is no longer the main goal. Survival now depends on choice. Every character is forced to decide what they are willing to lose in order to keep going. The trailer makes it clear that Maximus's situation is deteriorating fast. His capture is no longer a temporary setback, it is becoming a final judgment. The Brotherhood does not need proof anymore, they need closure. And that makes Maximus's position more dangerous with every passing moment. What stands out most about Maximus in this stage of the episode is his calm. Not because he feels safe, but because he has accepted the reality of what he's facing. He understands that his life may be used as a warning, and yet there is no regret in his eyes for saving the children. If anything, episode 4 presents Maximus as someone who finally knows who he is, even if that clarity costs him everything. Lucy, meanwhile, reaches a breaking point. The trailer suggests she can no longer run without doing something. Maximus's capture forces her to confront the kind of person she wants to be in this world. Survival alone is no longer enough. Episode 4 shows her stepping closer to danger, fully aware of what it might cost her. This is not recklessness, it is resolve. Lucy is no longer just surviving the wasteland, she is challenging it. The ghoul watches this transformation with mixed emotions. He respects Lucy's strength, but he fears the consequences. He knows that once someone chooses resistance, there is no easy way back. Episode 4 hints that he may have to make another impossible decision. Protect Lucy by pulling her away, or help her save Maximus and risk losing her to the same darkness that consumed him long ago. One of the most powerful ideas in episode 4 is how cycles repeat. The Brotherhood believes they are preserving order. The factions believe they are fighting for survival. Individuals believe they are making personal choices. But all of these paths keep leading back to the same outcome: violence. The episode quietly asks whether anyone in the wasteland can truly break that cycle, or if they are all just delaying the inevitable. As rumors spread and tensions rise, the world around the characters feels more alive and more dangerous than ever. Alliances shift, loyalties weaken, and people begin preparing for a future that looks nothing like peace. Episode 4 does not give easy answers or clean victories. Instead, it builds a sense of dread that something irreversible is coming. The trailer ends on a note that feels both quiet and devastating. There is no explosion, no final battle, just the feeling that lines have been crossed and cannot be uncrossed. Maximus's fate remains uncertain, Lucy's path is set, and the ghoul stands beside her, knowing that whatever comes next will demand more than survival, it will demand sacrifice. Episode 4 does not promise hope, it promises truth. In the wasteland, every action leaves a mark and no one walks away unchanged. As the season moves forward, one thing is clear: the war has begun, and the cost will be personal for everyone involved.